Hello, my friends. Welcome back. Today, I want to tell you a very interesting true story. It is the story of one of the most useful inventions in the world, the bicycle. Today, millions of people ride bicycles to work, to school, for sport, or just for fun. But the bicycle did not appear all at once. It changed slowly, step by step, over many years. Our story begins more than 200 years ago, in the early 1800s. At that time, people traveled in very different ways. Many people walked. Some rode horses. Rich people used carriages. Roads were often rough and dirty. Travel was slower than it is today. Inventors in Europe were trying to create new kinds of personal transport. They wanted something smaller than a carriage and easier than keeping a horse. Then, in the year 1817, a German inventor named Karl von Draisine created something new. It was called the Draisine. Some people also called it a hobby horse or a running machine. It had two wheels, one behind the other, and a seat in the middle. The rider sat on it and pushed along the ground with his feet. It had no pedals, no chain, and no tires like modern bicycles. But it was very important because it was the first clear two-wheeled machine that a person could ride and steer. Karl von Draisine showed that this machine really worked. In 1817, he rode it for about 14 kilometers, about 9 miles. That was a big moment in transport history. For the first time, people could see the basic idea of the bicycle: two wheels, one frame, a person balancing in the middle. The machine looked simple, but the idea was powerful. Still, the Draisine was not yet a true bicycle in the modern sense. Riders had to push with their feet all the time. That made travel tiring. The machine also worked best on smooth roads, and many roads were not smooth. So, although people found it exciting, it did not completely change the world right away. For some years, inventors continued to think, how could this two-wheeled machine become faster, easier, and more practical? The big answer was pedals. In the early 1860s in Paris, inventors and mechanics worked on machines called velocipedes. These machines had pedals attached to the front wheel. That meant the rider no longer needed to push with both feet on the ground. Now the rider could sit, pedal, and move forward more smoothly. There is still some argument about exactly who first had the idea of putting pedals on the front wheel. History is not fully certain here. Britannica says there is no conclusive proof about who first conceived this idea. But there is evidence that a French mechanic named Pierre Lallemand built and showed such a machine in Paris in 1863. Later, he took parts of his improved machine to the United States and received a United States patent in 1866. These early pedal machines became known for being hard and uncomfortable. Many were made of wood and iron. They had no springs, and roads were still rough. Because of this, people gave them a nickname, the Bone Shaker. You can almost feel that name in your body. Every bump in the road moved through the whole machine, and through the rider too. But people were excited by speed, and inventors wanted more, since the pedals turned the front wheel directly. A bigger front wheel meant the bicycle could go farther with each turn. So builders started to make the front wheel larger and larger. This led to the famous high bicycle, also called the penny farthing. It had one very large front wheel and one much smaller rear wheel. The penny farthing looked dramatic, elegant, and dangerous. Riders sat very high above the ground. They could go fast, but getting on and off was not easy. And if something went wrong, they could fall badly. So even though these bicycles became popular with some riders, especially young men who like sport and excitement, they were not safe or practical for everyone. This brings us to the next great chapter, the safety bicycle. This was the real turning point. In the 1880s, inventors worked on bicycles with two wheels of similar size. This design was much lower, more stable, and easier to ride. The rider no longer sat dangerously high in the air. That simple change made a huge difference. The most important model was the Rover Safety, designed in 1885 by John Kemp Starley in England. Britannica says this bicycle had the features we now think of as normal, two similar-sized wheels, a chain drive to the rear wheel, and a practical frame. This design achieved market acceptance, which means people truly accepted it and wanted to use it. After that, the modern bicycle was no longer just an idea. It had become real. But one more improvement was needed: comfort. Early safety bicycles often had solid rubber tires. They were better than the old bone shakers, but still not very smooth. Then in 1888, John Boyd Dunlop introduced the pneumatic tire. This tire was filled with air. It made riding much more comfortable, and it also reduced rolling resistance. In simple words, the bicycle moved more easily and more gently over the road. After that, the bicycle became much more popular. By 1893, Britannica says almost all new bicycles had pneumatic tires. In the 1890s, practical bicycles were being made in large numbers. They had diamond-shaped frames, chain drives, brakes, and better tires. By the late 1890s, many bicycles were much lighter than before. Then something very important happened. The bicycle was no longer only for daring sportsmen. Now it became useful for ordinary people. Men rode bicycles. Women rode bicycles. Workers used them. Travelers used them. Young people enjoyed the freedom they gave. In Britain, the United States, and Europe, there was a great bicycle boom. Factories made huge numbers of bicycles. In 1895, more than 800,000 bicycles were made in Britain. In 1899, more than 1.1 million were made in the United States. This was not only a story about a machine, it was also a story about society. The bicycle changed daily life. It gave people more independence. It helped them travel farther without a horse. It also had a special meaning for many women. Britannica notes that cycling came to symbolize the women's movement, because the bicycle gave women more freedom of movement and a new feeling of independence. So, who really created the bicycle? The honest answer is this: no one person created the modern bicycle in one single moment. Carl von Draisine gave the world the first clear two-wheeled rideable machine in 1817. French inventors and mechanics in the early 1860s helped add pedals. Pierre L'Allemand is one important name from that period. Then later inventors developed the large wheel bicycles. And finally, John Kemp Starley's Rover Safety in 1885 gave the world the basic design we still use today. After that, Dunlop's pneumatic tire helped make bicycles truly comfortable and popular. That is why the bicycle story is so interesting. It is not the story of one genius in one room on one day. It is the story of many ideas, many experiments, many problems, and many improvements. Slowly, over about 70 years, inventors turned a wooden running machine into one of the best inventions in the world. And even today, when we see a bicycle leaning against a wall or moving quietly down a street, we are looking at the result of that long journey, from Carl von Draisine and his simple machine to the safe, practical, comfortable bicycle that people still love today. Thank you for listening with me today. I hope this true story helped you enjoy English in a calm and easy way. You are doing a wonderful job with your learning. Tell me what story you would like to hear next. And if you enjoyed this one, please like, comment, and subscribe.